Breaking news. Ukraine launches a shock surgical strike. Russian command near Matishki is thrown into chaos. On November 6, 2025, the quiet morning shattered at 8:15 a.m. Ukrainian Su-25 Frogfoot jets roared in low, targeting a dense cluster of Russian command and control assets. Rocket pods streaked down, igniting the assault. Mi-24 Hind helicopters followed, their cannons tearing through anti-aircraft sights and radar arrays. This was a meticulously choreographed attack, every movement calculated to blind and confuse the enemy. Hidden Ukrainian tank columns advanced in sync with the air assault, applying pressure and pinning Russian units. The air was thick with cordite and diesel, a new phase of the conflict defined by speed and coordination. Russian defenders were overwhelmed, hostile aircraft above, armor advancing, and their communications crackling with static. The attack came from an unexpected direction, catching even seasoned commanders off guard. This was no ordinary skirmish. It was a direct strike at the brain of the Russian operation. In minutes, Ukraine seized the initiative, launching a 70-minute gambit to paralyze their adversary. The ground shook not just from explosions, but from the audacity of the plan. The clock was ticking, and the Russians were reeling. The Ukrainian operation was a symphony of firepower and coordination. Jets and helicopters delivered the initial shock, while artillery targeted infrastructure, radar, communications, and electronic warfare hubs. The goal: blind and deafen Russian forces for the next phase. Air and ground assets worked as one, creating a corridor for advancing tanks and infantry. Ukrainian forces operated on encrypted frequency-hopping networks, enabling seamless, real-time coordination. Pilots could spot a hidden tank, relay its coordinates, and artillery would strike within minutes. This rapid, secure flow of information gave Ukraine a decisive edge. Relentless, coordinated strikes overwhelmed Russian decision-making, sowing confusion and panic. By attacking air, ground, and the electromagnetic spectrum at once, Ukraine wasn't just fighting an army, they were dismantling a system. In those first crucial minutes, the Russian defense began to unravel. Before the first shell landed, Ukraine's electronic warfare units struck. A wave of electromagnetic energy crippled Russian S-400 and Panzer radars, filling screens with noise and false targets. Jamming was precise, targeting radios, radar, and guidance systems, creating a digital bubble around advancing Ukrainian forces. Russian crews were forced to rely on manual targeting, nearly impossible against fast-moving jets. The psychological impact was severe. Radio silent, radars useless, confidence shattered. Ukrainian teams fought on a plane the enemy couldn't see, and won. The electronic assault left Russian air defenses blind and isolated. Technology that once gave Russians an edge now failed them completely. The digital onslaught bred fear and uncertainty, paralyzing Russian response. Ukraine wasn't just jamming signals, they were jamming minds. The ghost in the machine had severed the Russian defense's nervous system. As the chaos subsided, Ukraine unleashed its robotic vanguard. Autonomous ground robots and swarms of AI-powered drones scouted the battlefield, mapping enemy positions and minefields. These machines fed real-time data to Ukrainian command, identifying tanks, artillery, and command posts with precision. Drones marked targets with lasers or GPS, enabling instant deadly artillery strikes. This fusion of autonomous reconnaissance and precision firepower created a brutally efficient kill chain. Robots and drones gathered intelligence and designated targets without risking human lives. The persistent, tireless surveillance left Russian soldiers feeling constantly watched and hunted. The psychological pressure mounted as every move was tracked and analyzed. Ukraine's use of robotics marked a tactical evolution, relentless, unblinking, and lethal. The battlefield was now under the gaze of an invisible, tireless enemy. Ukraine's digital battle went beyond jamming. It was deception on a grand scale. Electronic warfare units injected false information into Russian networks, broadcasting fake transmissions and phantom attacks. Russian commanders chased ghosts, diverting resources from the real threat. Ukrainian systems generated false radar returns, tricking air defenses into wasting missiles on non-existent targets. AI-powered drones joined in, jamming communications and manipulating Russian signals in real time. The result? A complete breakdown of Russian situational awareness. Commanders couldn't distinguish reality from illusion. The web of confusion paralyzed the Russian command structure, leaving frontline units isolated and guessing. Digital deception was as devastating as bombs, crippling the enemy's ability to respond. With Russian defenses blinded, Ukrainian artillery unleashed a barrage of unprecedented precision. This was no random shelling. Each strike was calculated, targeting high-value assets in real time. Data from drones, robots, and satellites fed into an AI-powered fire control system, prioritizing and assigning targets. Guided shells struck command bunkers and ammo depots with pinpoint accuracy. Multiple launch rocket systems saturated troop concentrations, leaving Russians nowhere to hide. The goal? Dismantle the Russian military machine before the ground assault began. Command posts decapitated, supply depots destroyed, communication nodes erased. This wasn't attrition, it was systemic collapse. The steel rain erased the enemy's ability to fight back in a coordinated way. The path was clear for the next phase of the operation. Russia's response was slow and disjointed, their doctrine ill-suited for this kind of assault. Counter-battery fire failed as Ukrainian artillery used shoot-and-scoot tactics, vanishing before Russian shells landed. Russian radars, hampered by jamming, couldn't track mobile Ukrainian guns. Drones spotted Russian artillery, turning the hunters into hunted. Digital deception misled Russian commanders, causing hesitation and fatal delays. Tactical reserves were held back, fearing a larger trap. Russia's 20th century mindset couldn't match Ukraine's rapid, data-driven tactics. The 70-minute strike exposed a critical vulnerability: over-reliance on systems that could be blinded and deceived. In the final phase, Ukraine targeted Russian communications for total isolation. Special operations forces severed fiber optic cables and relay towers, creating a physical blackout. Electronic warfare blanketed all Russian radio frequencies, making tactical communication impossible. Drones with powerful jammers hovered over headquarters, ensuring total silence. Russian units lost contact with leaders, artillery, and each other. Cohesion dissolved. Isolated and panicked, Russian soldiers fought alone, unable to coordinate or retreat. The systematic silencing of communications was the final blow. The Russian defense at Matishki was left paralyzed and helpless. As the 70-minute mark approached, Ukrainian forces withdrew as swiftly as they'd struck. The battlefield fell eerily silent, the ground littered with burning wrecks and shattered command posts. The true objective was achieved. Russian defenses weren't just damaged, they were paralyzed. Ukraine had demonstrated dominance in digital warfare, turning Russia's strengths into weaknesses. Surviving Russian units retreated in disarray, abandoning equipment and hope. This operation was a message. Victory would go to those who controlled information, not just territory. Ukraine fused AI, drones, and electronic warfare with brilliant tactics for decisive results. The 70-minute strike left a gaping hole in Russian lines and a wound in their psyche. Moscow now faces a deeper challenge, closing not just the physical gap, but the technological and tactical one. The world watches, waiting to see if Russia can adapt before Ukraine strikes again.